6 years ago, I had an aha moment that changed my life. It didn't happen overnight, but with time, it changed the way I solve problems, the way I deal with difficult people and situations, and it even changed the way I see the world and my place in it. I call it thinking small. It started when my niece told me about a little girl that she was mentoring at a local elementary school who was bummed that summer vacation was coming. This little girl loved to read, but she didn't have a single book at home. The school media center was her only source of books, and it was about to close for the summer. I didn't understand the reasons, but I thought it wouldn't be any big deal to send a few books to the school for this little girl, so I called the school to find out how I might do that. The family engagement specialist told me, or asked me, why this one girl when so many of her classmates are in the same boat, not a single book at home. And she threw in, by the way, children who don't read during the summer fall behind in school and lose some of what they've already learned. What she was describing to me is something called summer slide. It's a learning loss that affects a lot of children in the summer, but children from low-income families are so much more susceptible, and it's often due to a simple lack of access to things like books and field trips, things that keep their brains growing in the summer. Summer slide is absolutely real for children in high poverty areas like Athens, Georgia. It can lead to a 2-year achievement gap by the 6th grade. And the latest research is that children who aren't reading on grade level by 3rd grade are 4 times more likely to drop out of school. This is by 3rd grade, y'all. I had a tantrum right there in my kitchen. I stomped my foot and I said, how hard can it be to make sure children have books to read at home? Why doesn't somebody do something about this? And the hair on my arm stood up and I thought, I am somebody. I can do something. That moment grew into an organization called Books for Keeps that today is giving 50,000 books a year to children who might otherwise have none. But it almost didn't happen at all because in the days following my big aha moment, I had to figure out exactly what I was going to do about this summer slide issue. I thought about things like starting a bookmobile, a library card campaign, or even some sort of carpooling system to get children to and from the libraries during the summer. But every one of these ideas had serious, legit reasons why they wouldn't work, from lack of funding, lack of expertise, lack of access to the children or their parents, and there were 2 weeks left in the school year. And really, at the end of the day, summer slide had been studied and documented for decades, so who was I to think I could do anything about it? So I almost didn't. But I kept picturing this little girl sitting at home all summer long with nothing to read. In my mind, I pictured her staring at a wall. I pictured myself at her age in my dining room with my feet propped up, lost in a story. I remembered how it felt and the smile on my face to come out of the public library with my arms loaded down with books. And I connected with this little girl. She wasn't a statistic. She was a human being on the planet who loved to read just like me. And suddenly, seemingly helping her was worth it, even if it didn't solve summer slide for the world. When I look back now, I realize that how I went about doing it was I thought smaller and smaller and smaller until I landed on something that was actually in my power to do. I could buy books for one little girl. I could ask other people to help me. That's it. That's what I did. My friends and family chipped in, and we were able to give books to this little girl and 79 of her classmates in the 2nd grade, and it was enough. Those kids were so happy. They were so proud to own those books. So we decided to do it again the next year. No master plan, just collect as many books as we could, give them away at the end of the next school year. But the word got out, and people started being inspired to raise their hands and say, I am somebody. I can do something too. And the something Books for Keeps was able to do was exponentially increased by the somethings all these other ordinary people were able to do. Today, Books for Keeps isn't just making sure children who love to read have a few books at home. Today, we're providing books so fabulous, we're winning over children who had no interest in reading at all. Today, we're giving them books in quantities that last all summer long to fight summer slide. We are leveling the playing field for these children where access to books is concerned. And I've had the honor of watching this unfold over the last 6 years. And one of the things I've seen time and time again is that we have a tendency to believe that our small efforts can't possibly make a difference. And we sabotage ourselves before we ever get started. It's hard to believe that something so small can make a difference, but I had someone apologize to me for only being able to donate one book. But I saw the look on the little boy's face who got that copy of Diary of a Wimpy Kid. It was the book he wanted most in the world. I guarantee you he read it 1,000 times. We got a check in the mail from a woman who attached a Post-it note apologizing, $5. She was apologizing for how small her donation was. But she had no idea that we had an opportunity to buy Disney books for 45 cents each, and that check would buy 11 brand new books. And they're books that we didn't have before. It's just so easy to believe that something so small couldn't possibly make a difference, right? Well, think about this. It takes about 600 hours each year to sort and box all the 50,000 books that we need for our program for that year. There are over 600 people in this room. If we were all transported to the Books for Keeps warehouse right now for 1 little hour, we could sort and box all the books we need for the entire year. And it would be easy for you to believe that your 1 hour made a difference, right? Because you would see the proof of 600 hours right in front of you. But what if we could only send one of you right now by yourself for 1 hour? Would you start to hear that little voice, whoa, what difference could I possibly make by myself in 1 hour in the warehouse? I might. I think a lot of people would, because this mentality is everywhere. We end relationships because we know we can't change an entire person. We change majors because we can't get an A in a difficult class. We feel powerless. I say stop thinking so big. You're not ending world hunger when you donate 2 cans to the food bank. You're helping one family that now has 2 cans of food that they didn't have before. That's worth it. You're not ending domestic violence when you man a crisis line for an hour. You're helping one person who really needed somebody to answer that phone in that moment. That is worth it. Do it and feel good about it. Recognize it for the contribution that it is. I know thinking small is counterintuitive in today's world, but it's so empowering to stop thinking about your or the world's massive problems and just address the need or the situation that is right in front of you in that moment. Whether it's a charity, a relationship, it could be a business idea. That first small step, that dollar, that hour, I'm telling you they matter even if you never see the proof. I started applying the thinking small concept to my own life outside of Books for Keeps, my personal and professional life. Instead of trying to fix things to say, I can do something and just think small until I figured out what it was I could do. I've seen relationships improve, projects at work that were stalled or back on track, of just result after result after result from just thinking smaller until I landed on what it was I could do. But what's affected me most, I think, overall, is that all of a sudden, I'm not a passenger on this planet. I'm a participant in my world, in my life, in my moments right now. So if this big idea of thinking small has resonated with you, give it a try. Stop sabotaging yourself before you even get started and start recognizing that a small effort is worth doing. Little by little, the minutes of your life can add up to something miraculous if you let them. But if you give up and do nothing, you guarantee they add up to nothing. So I want everybody to raise their hands. I'm not going to make you say it. I'm going to say it for you, but raise your hand. You are somebody. You are somebody. You are somebody. You are somebody. you are somebody and you can do something. Thank you.